Okay, so just look at this notepad screen. So in programming language, we have three types of data types. That is basic data type. Okay, then uh, next concept is derived data type. Okay, next concept is like user defined data type. Three data types are there: basic, derived, and user defined. So as we know, in basic we come across the data types int, float, char meaning character, then double, void, and in C++ there is one more data type called bool, that is nothing but boolean. So in derived data types we come across arrays and so on. So let us not worry about derived data types now. We will go to the user defined data type. See, the difference here is basic data types means these data types exist in the programming language itself. So we are not going to create these data types. We are going to use in our program. That's all. That we have to understand perfectly. So these data types are already present in the programming language itself. If you take any programming language, there will be some data types which are already present in the programming language, so that we have to use in the program. We will not modify that data type. Okay, that means we will not change the any letter of those data types. Those data types are nothing but keywords. We have to use as it is, and we should know the properties. That means how to use in the program. Coming to the derived data types, the name itself tells derived means it is derived from the basic type. Okay, derived meaning is it is derived from the basic type. Coming to the user defined, so the name itself tells user defined means which are created by user, which are created by the user. So user defined data types are created by the users. So one such data type of that is user defined data type is called as class. So class is a user defined data type. So we'll come to know why it is called as user defined data type. See, whenever we declare the variable, so we follow this syntax, that is data type variable name. I hope you people remember, because this concept it has come from C language itself. Data type variable name. For example, if I write int a, so this is the example of declaration of variable. Now following the same concept, that is data type variable, if I write like this, for example, if I write like say student, okay, yes, you just compare here. In the first example, what I have done, data type variable name for that example is int a. That means int is the data type, so a is the variable. Understood? So int is the data type, a is the variable. Similarly, if I say data type variable, I can say student is the data type, yes is the variable. Just you compare with the first example. Data type variable name int a, data type variable name student, yes. But here we get a question whether student is a data type or not, because it is not present in the basic type, and even it is not present in the derived types also, because in derived types we come across arrays, functions, okay, then pointers, then references. Only these types we come across. Okay, arrays, pointers, functions, references. So the word student, it is not present in basic types list as well as derived types list. Then we can say this student is a user defined data type, because we have created now new data type I have created just now, like student. Similarly, I can write like say for example employee, employee e. See, employee. So employee is also user defined data type, because just now I have created this data type. So which comes under the category of user defined data type. Now, if I want to create a user defined data type, then I have to make use of the concept called as class. So class is used to create a user defined data type. So class is a keyword. So first of all, we should say class is a keyword which is used to define the user defined data type. So when we create a user defined data type, what happens? That is the question here. So just to look at the MS Word document, we'll come to know. So here definition is there. Classes are created using a keyword class. So just now I said, if I want to create a new data type, so new data type can be created in many ways, but one such thing is class. Okay, a class declaration defines a new type. So that only they're telling. Class declaration defines a new type, new data type that links code and data. So here this is very, very important. For an object, two things exist, code and data. So this point to remember, for a given object in the real world, two things exist, code and data. So when we use the class, this code and data both are linked. So this point you have to understand. When we use the class concept, both code and data both are linked. Okay. This new type is then used to declare the objects of that class. Okay. So if suppose if I write like this, sorry. See here, if suppose if I write class student, okay, then you just consider this as a class. Now you see, if I write student yes, so how did I write this statement means by following the syntax, that is data type variable. By following this syntax, data type variable, have written the statement called as student yes. Now in this case what happens, the word student is not called as basic type, the word student is not called as derived type, the word student is called as a user defined type, and for that user defined type I have to give the name as class. I hope people are getting. For this new data type, I have to give the name as class. Then what about yes? Yes, you should not call it as a variable. You should call it as an object. So whenever you write in this format, by following the syntax of data type variable name, for student, you should not call it as a normal data type, you should call it as a class. For yes, you should call it as an object. So whenever we declare the class, from class only we are getting this object. So you observe this. Yes, variable yes, or the object yes, we are getting from the class only. So that only they are telling in the this MS Word, that is, this new type is used to declare the objects of that class. Thus, a class is a logical abstraction, but an object has got physical existence. See, object has got physical existence, meaning object refers to real world. Solely they are telling physical existence. Whenever we say real world, it has got some physical existence. Whenever we say like virtual world, like our imaginary world, that we can call it as an abstraction, abstract concept. Okay. So class doesn't exist in real world. It is exist in programming language. But object exists in real world. So object has got physical existence. But what is the use of class? We can write a program. We can write object-oriented programming. By using class concept, we can write object-oriented program. So in other words, an object is an instance of a class. This you will come to know. In further programs, you will come to know the meaning of this definition. Object is an instance of a class. So I hope people are getting. Next, we will go for the declaration of the class. So in between, if you are people getting any doubts, you can ask. Just you can pause it and you can ask it. It's not a problem, because if there is only one-way communication, like I may feel that people are understanding or not. Okay. If you have any doubt, you can ask. So after every concept, I will wait for at least 10-20 seconds. In that time, you can ask it out. Yes, somebody asked doubt. Any doubt? Prem, I will send the notes. Don't worry. Okay. Anyways, after the class, I will send the notes. Okay. Okay, we'll move further. So this is the declaration of class. We have to consider the declaration of class because, see, like whenever we consider the programming languages, we have to follow the syntax. Okay, like in case of mathematics, we follow formulas. Say in the same way, in case of C programming language or C++ or Java, we have to follow the syntax. Okay. You see the syntax of the class, how to write. Class, I have changed that color because it is a keyword. Okay. So class name, opening brace, private data and functions, then comes the access specifier. Immediately after access specifier, we have to put the colon symbol. Okay. So this is the colon symbol. You have to put the colon. Then after that, data and functions. See, remember, whenever we are writing the class, we are binding data and functions. So that point you have to remember. Whenever we are writing class, we are putting together data and functions. Data and functions refers to the object. So if I say there is one object, for object there are two things, data and code. Code is nothing but the function. So that point you have to remember. Object refers to real world entity. For object, two things are there, data and code. For code only, we are calling it as functions. So whenever we are writing the class, two things we are binding, data and functions. Then comes the access specifier. Then again data and functions. In this way, you can write any number of times data and functions as well as access specifiers. Okay. So then after that, there is a closing brace of the class. Then object list. I said, right, after writing the class, next step is to write an object, either in the main function or just after closing the class itself. Either in the main function you can write the object, or after closing the class itself you can write the object. Okay. So here I have written after closing the class only. There are two types of objects, global objects and local objects. I will tell you in further programs. I will tell you. Now we will say what about this access specifiers, because in C language these things are not present. So it is a new word. When it comes to C++, it is a new word. We will see what are these things. Okay. So the object list is optional. That means it is a global object list. So there are two types of objects, local objects and global objects. We will discuss. Okay. If present, it declares objects of its class. Here, access specifier is one of these three C++ keywords. So this is very, very important. Class is a keyword. Along with the class, we have three more keywords here: private, public, and protected. Okay. Private is a keyword, public is a keyword, protected is a keyword. Okay. Now we will see what are the functionalities of these keywords. So we came to know the functionality of class keyword. Class keyword is used to define the class or to declare the class. Understood? Class keyword is used to define the class or to declare the class. So why we have to declare the class? Because for every object in the real world, two things are present: code and data. Data and code is nothing but functions. Two things are there: data and code, or data and functions you can call. If you want to write a program on any object by using object-oriented programming concept, then you have to make use of the class. Okay. We will see what are these things. By default, data and functions declared within a class are private to that class and may be accessed only by other members of that class. The public access specifier allows data or functions to be accessible to other parts of the program. The protected access specifier is needed only when inheritance is involved. Once an access specifier is used, it remains in effect until either another access specifier is encountered or the end of the class declaration is reached. Okay. So I will tell you about this meaning. I will tell you. Just will go for the notepad screen. Okay. Okay. So just look at this notepad screen. I will explain in detail what are those things and all. Okay. See, if we are writing the program by using object-oriented concept, that is object-oriented programming concept, first thing we have to write the class. Okay. For example, if I consider the class as student, okay, then, so when you open the brace, two things you can write: data and functions. Remember, two things you can write here: data and functions. Data means, like if I say int RNO is roll number. Okay. Then comes the, say for example, name. Okay. So these are the data. Data is nothing but just like attributes we can say. For student, what are the attributes are there? What are the properties? You need not tell here physical properties like height, weight, and all. You have to tell like according to the computer science concept, right? Roll number, name, percentage, marks. Those things you have to tell. So here two things we can consider. That is roll number and name. So still many are there, but let us consider two things. These are the data. Now coming to the functions. So functions in the sense, what we can do with this data, that is nothing but the function. See, for example, if I tell fan has wings, what we can do with that wings? Wings should rotate. Then we get the air. That means for a given object, by using the data only, functionality is developed. Without data, functionality is not there. So if there is no data, there is no functionality. Okay. For example, if fan has no wings means if it rotates also, we will not get any air like that. So important data is wings in case of fan, and rotation is nothing but functionality. Similarly, here also, if we consider student, roll number is one data, then name is another data. For this, we can write the function. What function you can write? Void input. So input roll number and name. So one functionality you can write here. Okay. Next, one more functionality we can write. What is the one more functionality? Void output. So with roll number and name, we can display on the screen. First thing what you can do is you can give the values for roll number and name. Next thing you can display. Then you close it. So this completes the class declaration. Now in class declaration, we have come across three things: private, public, and protected, right? See, if you don't write anything starting, say here, immediately after starting of the class, I can write either of these three words: private or public or private or public or protected. I can write these three keywords of our choice. But if I don't write anything, starting point I'm telling, not at all the points, starting point if you don't write anything, then by default, these two will become private. It is put into the category of private access specifier if I don't write any private, public or protected. Then afterwards, you have to write something, either private or public or protected. Otherwise, whatever things you write, it remains as private only. So if you delete this word public, even these two will come into the private category. So immediately after you write the data, if you start the keyword public, then these two things will come into the public category. So in this way, you can change any number of times, either private to public, public to protected, protected to public, like that. So after writing private or public, if you don't write anything till the end of the class, whatever you are writing, it comes in that category only. So for example, these two functions comes into the public category. For example, if you want to put input in public category, but output in private category, then you can do like this. Okay, I will tell you. Explanation I will tell you. Okay. What is the property of private, what is the property of public, I will tell you. Okay. So we will consider two things here. So if I declare something in the private section, that is, I have said these two comes into private, better I will write here because you people should not feel confusion here. Whether roll number and name comes in private or protected, you should not get confusion. So I'll write it as private. So here it is very much clear that roll number and name data comes in private access specifier, input and output comes in public access specifier. So if we give like this, what happens means, see, there is a concept called as block in programming language. There is a concept called as block. Block means whenever you put opening brace and closing brace, inside this, what are the things you write, that is nothing but the block. One or more statements put into opening brace and closing brace. Similarly, you consider this class starting and class ending. So we have put this much data in the class, and in this particular code, I have put roll number and name into private section. So there are three sections here: private section, public section, and protected section. So I have put roll number and name in private section, whereas input and output in public section. So what happens here is, when you write the main function or any other function, see, if I want to use this roll number in main function, see, if I write like roll number is equals to 10, okay, if I write like this, what happens is this statement is not allowed. It will give the error because they have put that roll number and name into private section. So if you are putting in the private section, it is not allowed outside the class. Understood, right? It's like local buses and buses which travel from place to place. Local city buses means which are not allowed to travel outside that city. Similarly here, roll number and name you cannot use in the main function because it is private. Now if you change this word to public, so if you change this word to public, then this is allowed. You will not get any error. So the meaning of private access specifier is if you are writing the data in the private access specifier, it is not allowed outside the class. Then where it is allowed? Inside the class it is allowed. Inside the class means we can use RNO is equals to 10 here. Okay, RNO is equals to 10, you can use here. It is not a problem. Even name also you can use here. Inside the class it is allowed, but outside the class it is not allowed. So that is the meaning of private access specifier. Whereas if you write in public section, for example, if I write like int a, one more data. So data you can put in public section, it's not a problem. Then in the main function you can write a is equals to 20. So this is allowed because you have put that variable a in the public section. So the things which we put in the public section is allowed within the class as well as outside the class. But the things which we put in private section is allowed only within the class. That's all. Okay. So now coming to the topic. Okay. Okay. So the by default data and functions declared within a class are private to that class and may be accessed only by other members of the class, that is within the class, or members which are present in public section. The public specifier allows data or function to be accessible to other parts of the program also. So like given the best example, like buses which travel from place to place. So they can travel from one place to another place, and in another city also, within that city also they can rotate there only. But city buses should travel within the given boundary. So class is like a boundary here. The protected access specifier is needed only when inheritance is allowed. So now let us not worry about protected access specifier because they have said clearly that inheritance is a concept. It is one chapter we will discuss there. Okay. So once an access specifier is used, it remains effect until either another access specifier is encountered or the end of the class declaration is reached. So that means, so whenever you are writing the class, if you are using private, public or protected, you can change at any point of time from private to public or protected to public, anything you can change. But if you don't change, it remains as it is. So that's the meaning. Next, we may change access specifications as often as we like within the class declaration. So that only I said, right? So from private to public, public to protected, protected to public, like that you can change any number of times. For example, we can switch to public for some declarations and then switch back to private again. Example, the following class declaration illustrates this example. Now we just look at the example here. I have taken one simple example, that is, just a minute. Okay, you see here, CHAR name private by default. That means if you are not writing any access specifier, by default it will take it as private. Okay. Then if you are changing to any other access specifier, it is followed by that access specifier. That means here put name and get name. These are the functions. These are not the data. These are the functions. These two things comes under public. And again, if I want to change to private access specifier, you can write it. So you can write it. You can write as private. Say double wage. Wage is a data. Then again, if you want to change to public, yes, you can change. Put wage, get wage. So here, generally, data is put into private. Functions are put into public. So how will you come to know whether it is a function or a data? You just look at this sentence, you will come to know. This opening braces and closing opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, if you put right, that is called as a function. So whenever you put like opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, that is a function. For a get name also, you can put like opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. For example, you see for wage, I have not put anything, opening parenthesis or closing parenthesis. That is the data, and it has the data type called as double. So data will be associated with data type here. So these put name and get name are the functions. So generally, functions are put into public section, data are put into private section. That is the way how we write the class. And it is not a rule. Even you can put this, say for example, if I write CHR here, it is not wrong. According to syntax, it is correct. But in some cases, like security purpose, those things are there. While we write a program or when we develop the software, security also we should see. For that purpose, they have made it like data should be put in private section, function should be put in public section. Okay. Now you just look at this diagram, right side of the document. Name comes in data section. Put name, get name comes in functions section. Wage comes in data section. Put wage, get wage comes in functions section. That means class will be associated with two things, data and functions. Data are generally put in private section, functions are put in public section, and it is not a rule. That also you should remember, it is not a rule. Because if you think like it is a rule, we cannot change it. Okay, it's not a rule. For security purpose, they have put data into private section, functions into public section. So this diagram, I hope you people have understood. Name is the data, put name, get name is the functions, wage is the data, put wage, get wage is the functions. Okay. Now here the explanation they are giving about the above syntax. In the above example, employee is a simple class which has the data, name and wage. See, this name is nothing but the data, wage is nothing but again data. The public expressor is used twice. We can code the employee class as shown below with all the private elements grouped together and all the public elements grouped together. See here, it's very easy. One more way of writing this class is like this. Okay, just a minute. See, what they have done is like okay, class employee. See, two things have put in private. Private means if you don't write any access specifier starting at the starting point, then it is treated as private. Only at the starting point, not at the other points. Okay, only at the starting point. If you don't write anything, it is treated as private. Then you can change it to public sector. You put all the functions into public section. You need not change again and again. So as we have done in the previous example, private, public like that. You need not change again and again. Put all the public functions, that is functions in one category, that is public. And if you don't write anything that is private or public, it is treated as private only. Okay. You just look at this diagram. Name and wage are the data of an object. Okay. Then put name, put wage, get wage are the functions of an object. Okay. So whenever we write the data and functions in a particular format, in the particular box or in particular block, that is called as class. Remember, whenever we write the data and functions of an object, of a real world object in a particular box or a block, that is called as a class. Okay. Now just to look at this. Okay. Functions that are declared or defined within a class are called as member functions. Okay. The member functions may access any element of the class of which they are part. This includes all private elements. Variables that are elements of class are called member variables or data members. It is also called as instance variables. Collectively, any element of a class can be called as a member of a class. So I will explain about this paragraph. Just a minute. We'll go to the notepad again. Okay. Okay, so you see, when I write the class, in front of the class keyword, I have to write an identifier. It is not a compulsory that you have to write like student, employee, table, fan, like that. If I just simply write capital letter A, that is also correct, because this A is nothing but the class name. When we write the class name, you just follow the identifier rules and write. That's enough. If you follow the identifier rules are first character should not be digit, and only underscore symbol is allowed. No other symbols are allowed. Blank spaces are not allowed. Then I think blank spaces not allowed. Digits at the starting point is not allowed. Okay. If you follow these identifier rules, you can write the class name very easily. Okay. If I write class A, that is correct. Now, inside this class, if you write like int A, see, I have made some difference here. Capital letter A is class name. Small letter A is data of that class. Okay, there is no confusion. In identifiers, you can do like that. If you change the uppercase to lowercase, it will be treated as two different identifiers. Now, if suppose if I write like say one function called as display, okay. So what they are telling is here two things are there. One is data, another one is functions. So data